as gunshots echo across the wind-swept, snow-covered reaches of the wild Northwest, Quaker Puffed Wheat and Quaker Puffed Rice, the breakfast cereal shot from guns, present Sergeant Preston of the Yukon. It's Yukon King, swiftest and strongest lead dog of the Northwest, breaking the trail for Sergeant Preston of the Northwest Mounted Police in his relentless pursuit of lawbreakers.
On King! On your husband!
Gold discovered in the Yukon. A stampede to the Klondike in the wild race for riches. Back to the days of the gold rush. With Quaker Puffed Wheat and Quaker Puffed Rice, bringing you the adventures of Sergeant Preston and his wonder dog, Yukon King, as they meet the challenge of the Yukon. There's no one that can make a better cereal than Quaker Puffed Wheat. It's neat, and when you hear the shootin', you're darn tootin' that Quaker makes the ones shot from guns. Be sure, fellas and girls, the big red and blue package of Quaker Puffed Wheat or Quaker Puffed Rice is on your breakfast table every morning. These famous ready-to-serve cereals are actually shot from guns to make them bigger and better tasting. They have a come-back-for-more nut-like flavor, a come-again tender crispness. For a taste treat you want to repeat, ask Mom to get delicious Quaker Puffed Rice and Quaker Puffed Wheat. Pete Madden and Concho Coleman owned and worked a rich gold claim in the Nahonee Mountain area about 100 miles north of Dawson. As Pete donned his parka in the cabin they shared, Concho shook his bald head sadly. His blue eyes were clouded with concern, and his weather-beaten face was deeply creased with lines of worry.
Oh, Dad read it, Pete. You'll have a mighty hard trip.
There's no way out of it, Concho. One of us has to go and get the mining machinery we ordered.
All the way to Dawson on foot with a heavy pack on your back.
Fella I used to work with has a shack about a week's travel from here. I'll stop at his place and rest a while.
What's his name?
Spike Marlin.
Never heard of him.
We came to the Yukon together in '84. Fact is, we worked for the Canadian Pacific Railroad, laying track.
The railroad was finished in '85.
Yeah. Then Spike and I went prospecting.
Oh, did you have any luck?
No. Spike got discouraged and turned trapper. I drifted north and spent 10 years looking for a rich strike. Then I met you.
It was a lucky day for me, Pete, when we decided to become partners.
It didn't take us long after that to find this claim, and it's a doggone good one.
It'll be even better when we get the mining machinery working in the spring.
I want to get it up here before the thaw. We'll be all set to go when the cold breaks.
How'll you move the machinery from Dawson?
I'll buy a sled and dogs for myself and hire a freighter to help haul it.
You'll need a lot of gold.
I put $5,000 in gold in my pack, and supplies enough to last a month.
The dog team will cost plenty, and the first-rate sled's priced high. On top of that, you'll have the machinery to pay for. You'll not have much of the $5,000 left when you start back here.
I'll be all right.
Bad we haven't a sled and dog team to carry that pack for you, Pete. You'll be done into your bootstraps by the time you reach Dawson.
I might be able to buy a sled and dogs from Spike Marlin.
I hope so.
Yeah, it would make the trip easier.
Look, I'll be glad to go in your place, Pete.
Nothing doing, partner. We drew straws to see which one would go, and that's all settled.
Yeah, but you might run into trouble. You might be robbed.
Don't worry. I'll not trust any strangers. Now to get that pack on the back.
Wait a minute. Wait, let me help you.
Thanks.
There. All set?
Yep.
Be careful, Pete.
Right. Well, so long, Concho. I'll see you in about 6 weeks.
I'll be looking for you, partner.
6.5 days later, Pete trudged alone through wind and snow across the frozen surface of Jackknife River and continued south for several miles. By the time he reached Spike Marlin's cabin that evening on the northern shore of Lake Okeechobee, he was exhausted. He was glad to find that his former partner had a spare bunk he could use.
Kick off your boots, Pete, and make yourself at home while I cook some grub.
Thanks, Spike.
There you look dog tired.
Oh, I am.
How long have you been walking?
6.5. Oh, close to 7 days. Traveling that distance with a heavy pack on your back's no picnic.
Sounds as if you've gone soft.
It's been a couple of years since I've had this kind of workout.
You hungry, Pete?
Oh, I'm almost too tired to eat.
How far you gone?
Dawson, I've got to pick up some mining machinery there.
For who?
My partner and me. We have a claim in the Nahoney Mountains.
Well, it must be a mighty good claim if you're going into mining.
It's good enough.
Maybe I was a jughead to give up prospecting.
You thought trapping a couple of seasons would make you rich, Spike.
I thought wrong.
Some fellas make a lot of money trapping.
Well, I haven't. It's a hand-to-mouth kind of life, Pete. I'd give anything to be able to go back to the States.
What's stopping you?
Price of a ticket.
Oh, I'll be glad to lend you a couple $100.
I'd need more than that.
I'll make it 500.
Your luck sure has changed, Pete. You never had a dollar to lend anyone.
Your luck will change too, Spike. It took me 12 years to find gold. They were downright lean years.
And now you're on top of the world. Me, I'm back where I started from in '84.
I'm sorry, Spike.
Well, tell me about your claim, Pete. How you found it, where it's located, what it's worth.
Well, now, as to how much the thing is worth...
Spike Marlin listened attentively to Pete's account of his good fortune. As the two men sat down to eat, Spike thought bitterly of the difference in their circumstances. Pete had struck it rich, while he had barely enough money to live on. Halfway through the meal, Pete yawned deeply. Spike noticed that he had scarcely touched his food.
Something wrong with the grub, Pete?
No, it's first rate, Spike. I reckon I'm just too tired to enjoy it.
Well, stretch out on the bunk if you want it.
Thanks.
You should have set a slower pace for yourself. Then you wouldn't be so tired.
I shouldn't have tried to pack my gear on my back. The trip would have been a lot easier if I'd had a good team and sled.
Yeah, you're right about that.
Know where I could buy a sled and some dogs?
Well, let's see.
As Spike sat at the table finishing his meal, he studied Pete thoughtfully. He knew the prospector was exhausted and suspected he would sleep so soundly nothing short of an explosion would waken him. A plan began to form in Spike's avaricious mind.
So, you want to buy a sled and dogs, huh, Pete?
Yeah.
Constable Dick Raymond has a good team for sale.
Constable?
The policeman at the post on the other side of the lake.
I didn't know there was a police post there.
And they built it last fall. The constable's got dogs of his own as well as a police team. If you're willing to pay a good price, he'll probably be glad to sell his Malamucin sled.
I'll stop to see him tomorrow.
Just across the lake to get there.
Why, I plan to follow the shoreline to the other side.
Yeah, but why? It's less than a mile straight across the lake. You'll save about 10 miles by crossing on the ice.
Is it solid enough to be safe?
Oh, it'll be another month before the ice starts thinning. It's plenty thick to walk on.
I crossed Jackknife River this morning, but I had to be mighty careful. The ice is dangerous at this time of year.
Well, the lake's safe.
I'm glad to hear it. I don't want to carry that pack any farther than I have to. This bunk's downright comfortable, Spike. I Can't seem to keep my eyes open.
Pete.
Spike looked closely at the sleeping prospector.
Dead to the world, huh?
Leaving Pete asleep on the bunk, Spike put on his parka and left the cabin. He went to the edge of the lake and studied the ice. He knew that the warm Chinook wind had begun to melt it, but the unbroken surface presented a deceptively solid appearance. He returned to the cabin. Pete didn't stir when Spike loosened his clothing in an effort to learn whether or not the prospector wore a money belt.
Doesn't seem to be carrying anything but this poogie. This is downright light for a gent who was talking about lending $500 worth of gold.
As Spike poured the dust from the poke into his palm, he noticed Pete's pack. He knelt by the hearth to open it. In the firelight, he rummaged through the contents until he found a heavy leather pouch. Loosening the thong that bound the top, he gasped.
What? Gold. Thousands of dollars worth.
Spike emptied the heavy pouch of its glittering contents, replaced the gold with an equal weight of scrap metal salvaged from broken traps, then very carefully repacked the gear.
When he leaves here tomorrow, he'll never know the pack was opened.
Early the next morning, Sergeant Preston halted his dog team in front of the police post on the banks of Lake Okeechobee. At the sound of the sergeant's voice, the cabin door opened. King went forward eagerly to greet his old friend, Constable Dick Raymond.
Sergeant Preston!
Hello, Dick.
And King, great day. It's good to see you, fellas.
Apparently the feeling's mutual. King never forgets old friends.
I expected you'd get here on patrol sometime this week, Sergeant.
I'd have been here yesterday if we hadn't circled the lake.
Good thing you didn't try to cross it. The ice is thin and dangerous in the center of the lake.
Yes, it begins to thin this time of year.
Come inside.
All right.
You too, King. And, great Scott.
What's wrong?
Look out there on the lake.
Someone's starting across.
Crossing from the other side, but he'll never make it.
Hello there!
Hey!
No use, Dick. He can't hear us.
No, we're downwind from him.
They've got to stop him before he reaches the thin ice.
I have a long pole beside the cabin. I'll bring it with me in case he goes through.
All right. Come on, King.
We'll continue our adventure in just a moment. Golly, I thought for a minute I heard a bear growling.
You did.
Hey, what? Let me out of here.
Oh, stick around. My growl is worse than my bite.
But I must be dreaming. Who ever heard of a talking bear?
You know about Goldilocks and the Three Bears, don't you?
Why, yes.
Well, I'm the Papa Bear.
And Goldilocks tasted your porridge.
Yes, the little rascal.
Well, you know, I always thought Goldilocks should have tipped you off to something.
To what?
To the swellest tasting, ready-to-eat breakfast cereal ever. Crisp, fresh, Quaker puffed rice or Quaker puffed wheat.
Did you say puffed?
Yes, the choice premium grains of wheat and rice are exploded up to 8 times normal size.
They're what?
They're actually shot from guns. Tip, Mr. Papa Bear, for the fellows and girls listening in. Morning, noon, or night, enjoy a bowl full of Quaker puffed wheat or Quaker puffed rice. The breakfast cereals shot from guns. Now to continue. As Constable Dick Raymond went to get the sturdy pole, Sergeant Preston took a length of rope from his sled and hurried after the mighty dog who was already racing across the ice.
Hurry, Dick.
Pete Madden was watching the ice and walking slowly to keep from slipping. He didn't see the Mounties and couldn't hear their shouts of warning. But Spike Marlin, watching through binoculars from his lakeside cabin, saw the policeman hurrying forward and waited tensely. He breathed a sigh of relief when the ice